Where do you think the game industry will be in the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh, well, I think it's going to be obviously. The virtual reality is one of the things that is going to be eventually a big thing. I believe. I'm not sure if the technical problems that they've solved so far are going to cut it. I'm not sure if they require more in that front, but that's one of the big things. And I think what looking at an even more bigger picture than just virtual reality, I think you are going to see a lot more diversification already. So the whole industry has already diversified a lot, and I see that you already have like games that are basically catering to impulsive natures or impulsive situations like mobile gaming, which is you take out your mobile device and you play the game when you have time.
Hmm.
And then you have like board games, which are essentially social games in which you play most of the time with your friends. And then you have virtual reality, which is basically this new way of uh, it's expressive and it's about experiences. You can put the player through an experience that they could not go through anywhere else. So that's one thing. And then you have like competitive stuff like esports.
Mm.
And I think it's going to be playing games is such an integral part of human life and playing in general that I think it's going to sort of go anywhere that people go. So anything you can play games on, you will. And I think that's what in store for games industry. In 5 to 10 years, I think it's going to be about virtual reality and all of these things that I mentioned before. And it's going to be also about putting the choice in the player's hands more and more, because that's what games are all about. It's all about the interaction. So we're going to see less of roller coaster rides and more um, sort of situations that you can genuinely um, respond to as a player, and that the game knows how to react to, so
Like
that they can respond back.
like less set story, because there's still a lot of games that are just a set storyline.
Sure,
But you're right. There's
definitely.
a lot more that where you're making the choice, you're interacting. What your choice changes what happens going
Right.
forward, type thing. And there's been a lot more of that. It's still not massive, but I'm have to agree with you saying that it's becoming more and more prominent.
Right. And I think, the indies are leading the way on that front. And that's obvious because you don't have as much to lose. If you put $100 million on a game, you don't want to take a lot of risk. So that's understandable. And it's understandable that small teams are going to kind of lead the way there. So, and this is why by the way, it's really interesting to be uh, in an indie team, because you can be on the cutting edge of the industry in that respect. But I think you already see a lot of this in what indie games are doing, and I think procedural generation, that it helps with that. It helps that the computer already knows all of these different parts of the world to, so they can modify it as well, which means that it can react to what you are doing in that game world more easily. So it all kind of comes back to the same idea of giving more control to the player.
I think the indie developers are at the cutting edge. You're right, because these big companies are just so stagnant with what they do. It's like they don't want to take risks. They don't want to try new things. You could have a whole forum of people saying we want this, and they're going to be like, nope, sorry, not interested. Who cares?
Right. And it's, like I said, it's sort of understandable because if you put that much money into a single game, you don't want to take any risk. Now, it would be really different if they just, took that same amount of money and just shared it with a dozen projects or 2 dozen. It might be different then. And it's the same with movies, really. If you see a really big blockbuster, a $200 million movie, it's not going to be that exotic in its storytelling or anything like that. But
No,
then
it's
you
going to be a
have
lot of flash and bang.
right, and that's and then you have your $20 million movies, which can be really like they take a lot of risk, and they sometimes fail, but sometimes a gem comes out of it.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
I see the same thing here with games as well. And I think it all boils down to the amount of money you spend on something, one particular thing.
Now, what games did you enjoy playing for 2014?
Well, I have to say I only played Papers, Please in I didn't play back in 2013. I played in 2014, and for me that was the probably the best game of 2014, because it's a great game. You look at all these pictures and documents, and you just make this binary decision of whether you should let somebody go or not, and it's simple and it's brilliant. But beyond that, I think I liked some things about Far Cry 4,
Okay.
especially the way that it gives player this really big sandbox to play in, and in some ways it's a good example of a kind of a philosophy that I can agree with in a very big game. So it's probably one of the better examples of an AAA production. And yeah, I think I would just single out that one game. It's probably made the biggest impression on me. I haven't yet played Dragon Age, or I really haven't played Shadow of Mordor even by this point yet. I've seen people play them, but I really just didn't pick them up yet and try them for myself. I have to say I liked Arkham Asylum a lot, so I might
That
like
was a
Shadow
good
of
one.
Mordor as well. Yeah, I really liked that one.
Now, what was your favorite game of all time throughout your whole lifetime of gaming? What would you say is your absolute standout favorite game of all time?
All right. So a lot of times I have two games, uh, and when somebody asks me what's your favorite game of all time, often I say that other game, and then often I said this one, and it's this is the very first Quest for Glory, when it went by the name of Heroes Quest by Sierra, back in 1980 something, I think.
Yeah.
So this was the very first keyboard-driven sort of RPG. And if you go back and look at that game, you'll and think back to what I said about the sort of a collection of sandboxes. you'll see a lot of similarities to that game because it's essentially a collection of sandboxes in which you can go from the very beginning. If you know what you do are going to do in the game, you can go to the guy that you're supposed to go to win the game. So you can go there right from the beginning if you know where to go and if you have the means, if you can, survive. So it's a great example of a game that doesn't limit you in any artificial way.
Mm.
And the other game that when I'm not decided about, about this game, I'll mention is Shadow of the Colossus, but I won't mention it this time.
Now, what would you say was your favorite moment that you've ever had in a game? Like something that made you like really emotional or made you like think differently about something or, just did something for you that you'd have to say is your absolute most standout favorite moment?
Well, I think it is a moment in Shadow of the Colossus, and it was this moment when I realized how powerful music in a game could be, and I'm not talking about sort of this premeditated, preset static music, but music that knows where you are and knows your situation in that game and reflects that. So, and I was in this game, I was swimming to an island,
Mm-hmm.
and the music started building up, and I was certain that there was going to be something on that island. And I swam, and it took me probably a couple of minutes to get there. And the music just kept building up. And it turned out the island was completely empty. There was nothing there. And then the music started looping from the beginning, and it had started to build up by coincidence. So I learned the power of music that day.
I have to say, since I started gaming, and this is back 8-bit Nintendo days, I'm like 3, 4 years old, music has been one of the absolute big things in a game for me. I collect video game soundtracks. It's like if the game has great music, it it really does add something. Like there's something about it. So,
Right,
um
and it's so easy to ignore the music.
oh, it
It's easy
is.
to ignore the music.
Or you
And
could
I
just
think,
turn it off and it's like, why would you do that?
right, right. And it's the funniest thing is that for some reason, when you are developing games and you listen to the soundtrack of the game, it will get to you more quickly. Like it becomes literally annoying more quickly than the visuals. The visuals don't ever annoy you, but when you listen to the same tune over and over again, then it might get annoying over a course of year or year and a half. So
Mm.
it's funny, and I'm not sure that kind of if that has any influence to how music is and when during the development music is being put into the game. But this is an interesting thing. But then it's it's so utterly crucial for the end result. So you
Mm.
absolutely can't ignore it. But then you have this where you get something that repeats, and in that respect, music is something special. It's different from the visual thing. It's you don't get sort of annoyed or like too bored with the same characters appearing again and again on the screen because you can kind of look past that character really easily, but the soundtrack gets to you somehow. It's interesting. Just a side note there
Mm.
about from a development perspective.
Well, I'm sure working on the stuff and having to listen to the music and make sure it goes along, like the same thing over and over and over and over and over
Right.
again.
So it's like hearing that song from the radio, just played back over and over again.
Mm.
So it's the very same effect.
Now, do you have a next title you'll be working on, or you're strictly focused on Hardland for right now until it's at its end? You don't have anything in the works.
Right. I think, it's for us, it's Hardland until the foreseeable future. We're working on updates, and there is a lot on the plate that we want to get covered and get really, up to the level where we can say that, hey, okay, try this out, and people are going to get it from the first minute.
Now, I have a couple viewer questions. I've got Steamed Hams 22. Any gameplay elements on the horizon that they're excited about and are not yet implemented?
Well, yeah, definitely. We're looking to add a lot more depth into the item system. So basically, sort of a crafting, which we have to some extent implemented under the hood already, but we haven't been able to kind of lift onto the other side to make the interfaces and all that. And then obviously character progression, which is one of the big things that we have, sketched out on the paper already, and we are just now starting to put into the world. And it's going to be about transforming yourself literally to go through a ritual in the game and sort of come out on the other side as a different person, a little bit different. It's the same. You probably at first just retain all of your appearances, but you'll have your statistics changed. So that's at least two mechanics that I can tell you about off the top of my head. Obviously, then we'd love to get our hands done dirty with the AI, improving that and improving the behavior of the NPCs, especially as it relates to combat, but otherwise as well. So to get them to, for instance, navigate the roads that are in the world. So I think that's a good one as well.
And Aramis for Life wants to know, his question was, have you made any games you didn't like?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yes, it depends on, there are always things that you like about your games that you think turned out pretty well, and then there are, things about those games that you wish you could have made better. But if you consider the games that you make from a fresh perspective, and imagine as if you were a player who just, picked the game up, and if you would carry on with playing that game or if you'd give it up. And I think I'd have to say yes, we did one game on iOS that was like that. And obviously the very latest iOS game that we had, King Hunt, was in many ways a complicated project. We did have a lot of good things about that game, but unfortunately we weren't able to sort of move the genre forward in a way that we imagined we should have been able to do. For some reason, that particular genre, and for those of you who are less familiar with King Hunt, it's a Fruit Ninja type of game. So we wanted to take a Fruit Ninja game and then add RPG elements and all the cool stuff on top of that. But it turned out that even though we tried for about a year, or a little over a year actually, we weren't able to sort of make it so that it feels as though it was a coherent game. We'd had all these cool things that we actually now have in Hardland, and they're working really well. But we couldn't just make them work in the context of slicing things on the screen. So at the same time, we wanted to take it to the end where you'd have more variety and you have more complex encounters, and then the game wanted to be simple. And anything we did to that game, it just always came back to, I want to be simple. So, right. So the end result is that we made a good Fruit Ninja game, which would have passed for Fruit Ninja 2, but I don't feel like we really nailed what we set out to do.
Gotcha. Steamed Hams 22 wants to know, what is your personal favorite thing about the game so far? The game being Hardland.
The personal favorite thing is probably I think it's just losing yourself into the world. It's just you run out into the world, and you always find things to do within that world, and you kind of we just recently implemented a very simple RPG mechanic of gating the level of items, and that loop alone has had me playing a lot more of the game, in a way that it's a really good sign if you kind of, as a developer, lose the track of time when you started out with testing some feature in the game, and then you kind of lose track of where you were and what you were doing because you were playing the game. So I think that little loop of, I found this great item and I need to get to level 5 or 6 to be able to use that item. I think that loop is currently the very best thing about it mechanically. Besides that, I think our art team has done a brilliant job with the visual style of the game, because it's probably the most mature part of the game, and it really looks the part. It could ship, if everything else was done already, it could ship today, the game. So I really like that part about it. It sort of brings everything together, and it gives the game this aura of being special.
Now, do you have anything else you'd personally like to add?
Well, I think I often end up talking way too much, so it's good that we don't give me a sort of a free ticket to talk as much as I like. But I'm so glad you like the game, and everybody who is listening and watching this stream, just go on ahead and go into the forums and make your voice heard, because we want to know about what you like or dislike about the game. Even if you haven't tried it out yet, let us know what it would take for you guys to actually get across that line and start playing the game. What do you need to see in that game? That really helps us take the game into the direction that people want.
Definitely. Well, I definitely want to thank you. It's been great. I love the game. Like I said, I've been watching it for a while now. I like the direction it's going. I love the artwork for sure. And I just like it in general, and it does have that big world feel, which I think is awesome. And the fact that you can destroy everything, and it's awesome. I think it's great. So keep up the awesome work.
Thank you. I'm sure we will. We'll do our best to make sure that it stays awesome.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people in the forums will voice their opinions if something changes, like no type thing. But I do want to thank you for your time. This has been fabulous. Thank you so much for letting me play the game on stream and joining me and answering questions and viewer questions and everything like that. It's been awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. You have a great day. And again, thank you so much for working on an awesome, awesome game.
All right. Hey, you have a great day too.
You too. Take care.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Oh, it's time for the raffle. He was very, very informative. I like that, though. And I have to agree with the music. Music is a big thing. All right. So we are close to, I'm actually going to go over a little over to, because I do want to show you guys Fortuna and the surrounding areas. So after I do this, I'll pop into Fortuna for probably like another 10-15 minutes just to show you, because like, so you can get the scope of just how big everything actually is. So first, let's see who our first winner is. Steamed Hams. Let's do it. And don't forget, Grimbone is going to be sending the codes out for me so I can pop into game, because we're doing 3 draws. So Hardland game. Oh, listen to him beg for your code. Don't listen to him. Alright, so Steamed gets the Hardland game code. Next up, Mywin. Let's see. Let's check out what Mywin's got going on. Oh, Hardland game again. Nice. And our final winner is Johnny the Jew. Let's see what he's got going on. Hardland game. Nice. Grats, guys. Grats, guys. Very, very nice. Alright, let me get over back into game so I can show you some Fortuna. And definitely tune in tonight for the regular stream. Have a little surprise for you. So, let me get back into here.